If you're watching this, you need to hear this story, because what happened to me could happen to anyone. Please, before we begin, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment if you've ever trusted someone who betrayed you. It helps spread awareness and protects others from falling into the same trap I did. I was always a responsible woman. I started working when I was just 16. While my friends spent their paychecks on clothes and nights out, I saved every cent. My mom taught me that money was security. So, I opened a savings account and started depositing part of every paycheck. It became a habit that made me feel proud and safe. By the time I was 27, I had never asked anyone for money. I lived in a small, rented apartment, cooked at home, and didn't own anything expensive, but I had something no one could see. Nearly $45,000 saved up. It wasn't for anything specific. It was just my emergency fund, my cushion, my peace of mind. I didn't tell anyone. I never talked about money. I didn't wear luxury clothes. I didn't flaunt anything. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. Then I met Eric. He was charming, funny, and very attentive. I met him at a friend's dinner party, and we clicked right away. He wasn't flashy, wore simple clothes, and said he was working on something big. He called it a startup idea. Honestly, I didn't care what he did. I liked how he made me laugh. He asked me out the next day, and soon we were seeing each other every weekend. He was affectionate and seemed interested in everything about me. I felt seen, heard, and loved. He wasn't like the others. He talked about a future together, and I believed him. For the first time in a long time, I let someone in. And that's when everything started to go wrong. Eric became a big part of my life very quickly. Within 2 months, he was practically living in my apartment. He had a way of making me feel special little surprises. Late night talks, sweet texts in the middle of the day. I started to picture a future with him. He talked about buying a house, starting a business, and even having kids. It felt like he was planning a life, not just dating. Then came the first red flag, but I didn't see it that way at the time. He said his bank account was frozen because of a fraud investigation involving one of his startup partners. He looked so upset. He said all his assets were tied up and he needed a little help. It was just $800 to cover rent for his apartment that he was still, technically, leasing. Just until next week, he said, it'll pay you back the moment it clears. I hesitated, but then I remembered all the times he'd been there for me emotionally. And I had the money. Right? 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 I gave it to him. He hugged me. Like I just saved his life, he said. He'd never forget it, that he'd make it up to me 1,000 times over. And I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe I'd done the right thing. And honestly, for a few weeks, things were great. We were happy normal. But soon after, there was another issue. This time, he said, his car had been towed while helping his cousin move. The fine was huge, and he didn't want it to affect his credit. He looked ashamed. Asking, I told him not to worry. I covered it, $1,200. Then there was a dental emergency, a business deal that needed a quick buy-in, a sick uncle needing surgery. Each time, the story was just believable enough, and each time I told myself, this is temporary. He's just going through a rough patch. But the money kept flowing out, and the love, it started to shift. Eric became irritable. He started nitpicking. Everything I did, how I folded towels, how I cooked rice, how I dressed. The man who once complimented every little thing about me now seemed annoyed by my presence. I tried to bring it up gently. Is something wrong? Brady asked. He always brushed it off. I'm stressed, he'd say. You have no idea what I'm dealing with. He made me feel like I didn't understand him. Like I was being selfish for even asking. But I wasn't blind. I saw the change in him. He became distant. And when we were together, it felt like he was somewhere else. On his phone, constantly texting business partners or family. He started staying out late, saying he was at meetings or clearing his head. Yet, whenever he needed money, he was suddenly sweet again. It was like flipping a switch. He'd hold me, kiss me, say I was his everything. And then the request would come. Stacey, here is $3,500. There always was urgency, always a promise to pay it back. One night, I sat in bed, calculating everything I'd given him. It added up to $18,750. I stared at the number and felt like I was underwater. How did I let it get this far? I tried to confront him. Eric, I've helped you so much, and I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. He exploded. Are you seriously throwing this in my face? After all I've been through? Wow, I thought you were different. You just proved you're like every other woman. He slammed the door and left. I stayed up, crying, wondering if I had done something wrong. The next day, he came back with flowers and a tearful apology. He said he was under pressure, that he felt like a failure as a man for having to rely on me. He made me feel guilty for confronting him. So I apologized. I told him it was okay, that I just needed communication. He promised things would change. For a few days they did. He was warm again, attentive. We went on a weekend trip, said it was his treat but I paid for the Airbnb and the gas. I didn't even argue. I just wanted peace. Then, a week later, he told me he had the opportunity of a lifetime. An investor was willing to fund his app idea, but he needed to match the funds temporarily to prove his stake. It was $15,000. That was more than I had left in liquid savings. I hesitated. I don't know, Eric. That's everything. I said, you told me you believed in me. I guess you were lying. He turned away like I'd betrayed him. I felt sick. I wasn't just scared of losing the money, I was scared of losing him. So I did it. I transferred the money. He said he'd be back later that night, but he didn't come home. I called, no answer. I texted, nothing. The next morning, his phone was disconnected. His Instagram was gone. And all I had left was an empty account. I sat on the floor of my apartment, staring at my phone in disbelief. I called every friend we had in common. Most of them said they hadn't heard from him in weeks. One of them finally admitted, something he's done this before, not just to you. My hands shook. My chest felt tight. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was humiliated. How could I have missed the signs? I was careful. My whole life, I built my savings from scratch. I never trusted people easily, and yet I handed over everything. Wasting the money, with the loans. Yes, after my account started getting low, Eric convinced me to take out a personal loan. He said he couldn't apply himself due to the fraud case still pending. I believed him. I wanted to help. I thought I was investing in our future. I owed $8,000 on that loan. Now, I was alone. No money, debt, and shame, so heavy I couldn't breathe. I did not tell anyone at first. I was too embarrassed. I did not want people to say I told you so. I didn't want to hear the judgment, so I smiled at work, pretended everything was fine, but inside, I was falling apart. I started going to therapy. It took weeks before I could even say his name. My therapist told me something. You'll never forget scammers. Don't look like criminals. They look like the person you've always wanted. I didn't fall for him because I was stupid. I fell for him because I was human. And you've learned now, am not the only one. I spent weeks in a fog. Every time I opened my banking app, the empty balance stared back at me like a reminder of my failure. I started cutting expenses, no? More takeout, no more weekends out, no new clothes. I canceled streaming subscriptions, moved to a cheaper apartment, and started picking up freelance work on the side. But it wasn't just about the money anymore. I didn't trust people. I didn't trust myself. Every conversation felt like it had a hidden motive. Every compliment made me suspicious. I was scared to connect with anyone as scared-eyed to be fooled again. Eventually, I found the courage to start talking about it. I joined an online forum for financial abuse survivors. That's why I realized something shocking. Romance scams went rare. They were everywhere. Thousands of people, men and women, were tricked by people they loved. The stories were different, but the pattern was the same. Quick intimacy, emotional manipulation, financial requests, and then abandonment. Reading those stories made me feel less alone. One woman lost her retirement savings to a man she met through church. Another gave everything to someone who said they were a deployed soldier overseas. They all said the same thing. I didn't think it would happen to me. I decided to write my own post. I didn't use my real name. I just shared the facts, the pain, and the lessons. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of people messaged me to say thank you for being honest, for showing them the red flags they missed, for helping them feel less ashamed. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like a failure. I felt like a survivor. Looking back now, the red flags were there from the beginning. Eric moved fast emotionally. And physically, he talked about the future too soon. He made me feel special quickly, intensely, and almost overwhelmingly. That's what they call love bombing. It's not love, it's a control. He never showed real proof of his finances. He always had excuses. And between accounts, it's a startup thing. The bank messed up again. And I believed him because I wanted to. He isolated me slowly, not by force, but by making me feel like I couldn't talk to others. They're jealous, as they just don't understand what we have, so I stopped confiding in my best friend. I stopped asking questions. I started defending him, even when my gut told me something was off. And most of all, he never actually paid me back, not even once. There was always a new excuse, a new crisis, and I told myself it didn't matter, that we were a team, that money didn't define love. But love isn't supposed to feel like a weight around your neck. It's not supposed to drain your bank account and your soul. After I posted my story online, the woman reached out to me privately. She sent me a photo. It was Eric with a different name, living in another city. Same smile, same lies, different victim. My stomach dropped. He hadn't disappeared, had just moved on to his next target. I wanted to scream, but instead I decided to fight back differently. I contacted a lawyer, but there wasn't much they could do. Eric hadn't used his real name on anything. No legal contracts. No proof of repayment, promises. Most of the transfers were voluntary. It felt like I had no legal ground. But I did file a police report. I gave them every detail, every message, every bank transfer, every lie. They told me it might help someone else down the line, even if I never got my money back. I also filed fraud alerts with credit agencies, just in case he tried to use my identity. It was like locking all the doors. After the thief had already left, with everything. But there was one thing I could do that would make a real difference. Speak up. I made a decision that scared me. I started sharing my story publicly using my real name, my real face. I didn't want revenge, I wanted prevention. I gave a talk at a local women's support group. I started a blog about financial boundaries in relationships. I even recorded a podcast episode with a personal finance expert every time I shared my story. It got a little easier to breathe. It wasn't about getting sympathy. It was about breaking the shame. Shame is what keeps victims quiet, and silence is what lets scammers keep going. So I spoke, and the messages poured in from young girls, older women, even men, people who had lost money, trust, and sometimes years of their life to someone they loved. We were all part of the same club, a club no one wants to join, but one that needs to exist. As months passed, I started to heal. Not all at once, not with some magical moment of closure. It was slow, painful, and uneven. Some days I still blamed myself. I'd open my banking app out of habit and feel a wave of sadness crash over me. Other days, I'd remember Eric's face and feel rage bubble up. But little by little, those feelings faded. They didn't disappear, but they stopped controlling me. I built a new budget from scratch. Every dollar had a purpose. I automated savings again, but this time in smaller amounts. I got help from a nonprofit that worked with scam. Servesti helped negotiate my loan repayment to reduce the interest, and I took back control one step at a time. I also reconnected with friends I had pushed away during my relationship. I apologized. They welcomed me with open arms. Not one of them said, "I told you so." They just hugged me. That meant more than they'll ever know. Most importantly, I started really learning about financial literacy, not just saving and budgeting, but spotting manipulation, setting boundaries, and protecting myself emotionally and financially. That's the part no one talks about. Financial education isn't just about numbers, it's about knowing your worth and learning to say no, even when love is on the line. Now, when I talk to other women about money, I don't just tell them to save. I tell them to protect. Protect your account. Yes, but also your time, your energy, your trust. Ask questions. Require receipts. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for wanting clarity. If someone gets defensive when you talk about money, that's a red flag, not a romantic gesture. I've changed how I date. Now I move slower. I don't share financial details early. I listen more to my instincts and less to love stories. Built overnight, I keep my financial accounts private and separate. And most of all, I remind myself that my security comes first. Love shouldn't cost you your peace. To anyone watching this who might be in a similar situation, please listen to that small voice inside you, the one that hesitates, the one that asks, "Is this right?" Don't ignore it. Don't silence it. You are not alone. You are not stupid. And you are not broken. You were targeted, manipulated, used. But you can rebuild, you can protect others, and you can come out stronger. I did. And now I hope others do the same. One of the most powerful things I've learned since this experience is that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's human. Wanting connection, wanting love, that's not foolish. It's natural. The problem is that people like Eric weaponize that vulnerability. They use it to control, to take, to manipulate, and they know exactly what to say. They don't come in with demands. They come in with empathy. They study your patterns. They make you feel like you're being seen and understood in a way no one else has ever managed. That's why it hurts so much when they betray you. It's not just the money. It's the lie of intimacy. And when you wake up from that illusion, it's like falling out of the sky. I used to lie awake at night, replaying every moment, every conversation. Was it real? Was any of it real? Did he ever love me? The answer that brought me peace wasn't yes or no. It was, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I survived, that I learned, that I can help others now. Eve, since freed, dozens of books and stories about scam recovery. I've taken online courses in trauma response, emotional abuse, and financial recovery. I even considered going back to school for psychology because I want to turn my pain into purpose. Some people climb mountains. Some people run marathons. I am learning how to rebuild trust. Not in others, not yet, but in myself. One of the hardest parts was forgiving myself. Not forgiving him. That will never happen. But myself, that was a long road. At first, I hated who I saw in the mirror. I thought, how could you let this happen? I felt stupid, weak, gullible, but then in therapy, I started to see things differently. Eric didn't choose me because I was stupid. He chose me because I was strong, because I was generous, because I had something he wanted, not just money, but kindness, trust, belief. Predators don't waste time on people they can't use. That realization shifted everything. Instead of thinking, why me, I began asking, why do people like him keep getting away with this? And the answer was simple: silence. People don't talk about financial abuse. They don't know how there's shame, fear of judgment, fear of being blamed, and so we stay quiet, we pretend it didn't happen, we move on, but we carry that weight alone. That silence is exactly what scammers count on. But, team, not staying silent anymore. Not for me, not for the girl I used to be. And definitely not for the next person. Who's about to hand over their savings to someone who calls them baby and says, we're in this together? Since sharing my story, I've been invited to speak on podcasts, at women's financial literacy workshops, and even at high schools. One teacher told me, our students need to hear this before it happens to them. And she is right. We teach kids how to calculate interest. We teach them how to fill out a tax form. But we rarely teach them how to spot financial manipulation disguised as love. No one ever told me, watch out for someone who rushes emotional intimacy. No, one said, a partner who won't show you financial transparency is a danger sign. No one taught me that. Just this once usually turns into just one more time. So now I teach that. I don't sugarcoat it. I say it plain. If someone loves you, they won't put your future at risk. If someone loves you, they won't guilt you into draining your savings. And if someone disappears after they get what they want, they never loved you at all. They loved what you could give. I recently created a digital guide, free, easy to read, called Love Is Not Alone. In it, I break down 10 red flags I missed and how others can spot them early. It's been downloaded thousands of times. People from all over the country reach out, saying it saved them from making the same mistake. That's when I knew I wasn't just healing, I was turning the worst thing that ever happened to me into something that could save someone else. I remember the last night I saw Eric clearly. He kissed me on the forehead, said he'd be back by dinner, and walked out the door. At the time, I had no idea that would be the last time I ever saw him. No goodbye, no warning, just gone. The worst part, I waited for him. For days. Even after realizing what he'd done, I kept hoping I was wrong. That maybe he'd walk through the door and apologize. Maybe he'd say he panicked. Maybe he'd pay it all back. But he did. And that moment of acceptance, when I knew he was never coming back, was the moment I realized I had to stop waiting and start living again. It didn't happen overnight, but slowly, piece by piece, I began to rebuild. I deleted our photos. I sold the gifts he'd given me. I even threw out the sweater he always borrowed. I needed to clear the space, physically and emotionally. I replaced old habits with new ones. Reading, journaling, early walks. I took up yoga. I reconnected with myself. And I made a promise. I would never give someone else the power to destroy my peace again. Love, yes, but not blind trust, not unchecked access, not silence in the face of discomfort. I would ask questions. I would demand honesty. And most importantly, I would listen to myself when something felt wrong. Today, I'm still paying off the loan Eric convinced me to take. It hurts. Yes, every monthly payment is a reminder of what happened, but it's also a symbol of something else. My strength to take responsibility, even when it wasn't fair. I no longer see myself as a victim. I see myself as a woman who was targeted, but who fought her way back. I've built the Modest Emergency Fund. Again, it's not what it was, but it's growing. Every dollar in that account now feels earned in a way it never did before. It's not just money. It's proof that I can rise from the ashes. I've also built boundaries. I'm not afraid to talk about money. I'm not afraid to say no. And I no longer believe that love means sacrifice at all costs. Love is respect, partnership, honesty. If you're watching this and you've been hurt, lied to, always please know you are not alone. Please don't let shame silence you. Speak up, get help, tell someone, and never ever think you're too smart, too careful, or too experienced to be scammed. Because these things don't happen because we're weak. They happen because we care. But caring isn't the problem. The problem is thinking you have to do it alone. And you don't. I've started using my voice online, not just to tell my story, but to advocate for financial safety in relationships. I've partnered with financial educators, relationship coaches, and even cybersecurity experts to help others protect themselves from scams that disguise themselves as love. One of the best tools I discovered, a personal financial checklist for relationships. It sounds simple, but it's powerful. Before combining finances, sharing accounts, or lending money to anyone, even a partner, I now ask myself, have I known this person long enough to trust them with access? Have they ever paid me back from a past request? Do they respect boundaries around money? Or do they pressure me? Are they open to discussing finances transparently? If the answer to any of those is no, then the money stays put. It's not about being cold. It's about being clear. I also talk about the 3-month test. If someone becomes dependent on you emotionally or financially within the first 3 months, that's a huge red flag. Love takes time. Trust takes consistency. No real partner will expect you to rescue them financially before they've even shown who they truly are. Eric failed all those tests, but I hadn't created them yet. Now I have, and I teach them. I may have lost thousands of dollars, but I gained something priceless: wisdom, confidence, and the ability to protect others from what I went through. I used to be ashamed of being the girl who got scammed. I thought it was a mark on my identity, something people whisper about behind my back. But now, I wear that experience like armor, not because I wanted it, but because I survived it. Terrace, something powerful in surviving, something meant to break you. Every story I share now is a brick in the wall. I'm rebuilding, not a wall to keep love out, but a wall of standards, of self-respect, of financial clarity. I know what I deserve now, and it's not someone who disappears when the money runs out. Eric is probably out there still doing what he does best. Lying, scamming, using new names, new stories. But I've done my part. I've warned others. I've shared my face, my voice, my truth. And I'll keep doing it. Because for every Eric in the world, there are thousands of strong women, like me women, who believed, were betrayed, and came back stronger. We're not just victims. We're teachers now, advocates, survivors. And nothing can take that away from us. Not even a man with a smooth voice and a fake dream. The biggest lesson I learned? It's not the heartbreak that ruins us. It's the silence that follows. So, let this video be your permission. Slip to speak up. Whether you've lost money, time, love, or trust, your story matters. You don't have to tell the world like I did. You don't have to make a blog or speak on podcasts, but tell someone, a friend, a therapist, a support group, because healing starts the moment we stop hiding. If someone makes you feel unsafe for asking questions, walk away. If someone tells you that true love means sacrifice, them who sacrifice they mean. And if someone ever tries to shame you into giving them money, that's not love, that's theft in disguise. I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect. I still carry scars, but I now walk through life with my head held high. Not because I avoided pain, but because I faced it. And I hope my story helps you avoid yours, or heal from one. Or maybe even both. To every woman watching this who feels broken, let me tell you this. You are not broken. You were targeted, you were generous, you trusted someone who didn't deserve it. That's not a flaw, that's a strength misused by the wrong person. Don't let that turn you cold. Let it make you wise. Because you can rebuild, you can love again, you can protect yourself and still be open to connection. I test, not one or the other. I once thought my savings were my security. Now, I know that I am my security. My knowledge, my boundaries, my voice. That's what keeps me safe. And for every person who tried to tear me down, I've met 10 more who lifted me up. Helpers, friends, survivors, we are everywhere, and we are stronger than the people who tried to break us. So today, I wake up with peace. No, because I got back what I lost, but because I found something far more valuable, myself. So if you've made it to the end of this story, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being part of the movement to make financial safety the normal, expected part of love. Please share this video if it resonated with you. Someone you know might be in a situation like mine, and they might not even realize it. Your share could save someone from losing their life savings, or worse, their sense of self. If you've been through something similar, comment below. You never know who you might help by sharing. And if you're starting your financial journey or recovering from a financial loss stick with this channel, we tell real stories, we offer real advice, we protect each other. Because the best investment you will ever make is in yourself. Stay strong, stay smart, stay safe, and never forget. Your worth is never measured by your bank account, but by how you protect your peace. Thank you for watching. Until next time,